Are we good to go, Karen? All right, so hello again. Thank you for your patience as we sorted out some technical concerns, but I'd like to thank everyone for coming to this Canadian DSpace user group, formerly known as DSpace Anonymous. We are the unofficial support group and community support and technology network for DSpace users across Canada who have come out of the CARL Open Repositories working group. On the members of the task group on community building and engagement who are here today, it's myself, Carolyn Sullivan, Mike Nason, who else is here? I thought I saw Dana, what we're going to do today is we like to keep these pretty interactive. So after two presentations, we will also be collecting feedback in the chat. There will be an opportunity for conversation later on, but Carolyn, would you be able to drop the link to our Google Doc in the chat as well? We do have—
I would love to do that, but the chat is still disabled.
Oh, strange. I can—
That's because you're a panelist.
That's because I'm a panelist. Okay, I'll figure out how to do this. Okay, but let's see if we can get started. Mariya and Rachel, are you able to share your screen now?
Let me press all the buttons to unmute, to show my video, and to share my screen.
All right.
In that succession. All right. Could people confirm for me whether they're able to see my screen?
Yes, we are.
Perfect. All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Mariya Maistrovskaya. I'm a digital publishing librarian at the University of Toronto Libraries. And with me here is Rachel Wang, who is our application programmer analyst. So I'm still minimizing all the windows so I can actually focus on what I'm talking about. So we're happy to be here to talk about upgrading our DSpace repository. Unfortunately, we can say nothing in the book about upgrading to 7, which is probably what you all want to hear about. We're going to be talking about upgrading from 5 to 6, and our previous experience from 4 to 5 is pretty similar to that. So this was kind of born out of conversation that I think Jordan and I had for many years now that went in circles, and it went like this. Jordan would say, everyone says that their repository is super customized and so different that their experience cannot be relevant to others. But is it actually true? Are their repositories actually customized to the point that others could not benefit from that experience? So today, Rachel and I will talk about our repository and how customized it is. And it will be, I guess, up for you to judge whether any of that is relevant. So a few words about our repository. So it is DSpace based. It's called TSpace because obviously U of T, TSpace, that was the style some 15 years ago. We're currently on 6.3 JSPUI. The repository was established in 2003. U of T was actually one of the early adopters of DSpace when it came out. TSpace only contains full text open access materials. We do not have metadata only records. And we recently celebrated going over the 100,000 items hump. We see about 8,000 downloads per year, and we have a combination of mediated deposit and self-deposit submissions. We also receive feeds from Sword. We have a custom deposit feed from Canadian Science Publishing, as well as we get our thesis from ProQuest. You can ask me about that separately. And because I anticipate that you will ask how it is supported, so I prepared a little breakdown of our FTE that you can see here on the slide. So about 40% of mine, about 65% of Rachel, and about 30% of the graduate student library assistant. And I think our GSLA is also here on the call. All right, so I'm going to pass this over to Rachel, who will talk about customization specifically.
All right, thanks, Mariya. So I'm just going to briefly go over these points because we're actually going to see the customizations in details. But the very first thing I wanted to note is that our theme, our DSpace theme, is actually customized with U of T styling. So if you do visit TSpace today, you'll see that throughout the website. Next slide, please, Mariya. So the very first thing you'll notice when you go to our homepage is that we actually have a customized homepage using the Mapbox API, and we've designed this really beautiful map that lists the top 5 real-time downloads of any of our items. And if you actually hover on that map plot, you'll actually see the URL that takes you directly to the item, which is kind of cool. Next slide, please. And then another aspect of our DSpace instance that we customized was our communities and collections accordion menu. Prior to upgrade, we actually had an accordion menu which was not AOTA compliant. In Ontario, we have the Accessibility for Ontario's Disability Act, which requires public-facing websites to comply with WCAG level 2.0, I believe, level AA and double AA. So this was one of the changes and customizations we made during this upgrade. Next slide, please. And you'll also notice that we did this very same customization to our help page. In addition to that, you'll also notice at the top right, we have this search within help page tool, which also makes it a little bit easier for our users to look for content within these accordions. So whatever topic or subject they're looking for, they can put it into that search bar and it will actually open up that accordion for them so that they can see the content they're looking for. Next slide, please. And another aspect that we also customized was our items, collections, and communities and statistic pages. So if you are familiar with the out of the box, you'll notice that it does not look like this. We have added some extra styling for the graphs here. And another thing to note is that the page views and the file downloads are actually aggregated data. So since the very beginning of DSpace, those counts have been aggregated there. So that's another fun and cool customization about our item, collection, and community stats pages. Next slide, please. And then we have our item pages that are customized for Canadian Science Publishing, who came to us and said, hey, we would like a custom item view. So on the left, you'll see the customized item display, and on the right, you'll see the regular item display. A couple things to note, you'll notice that there is a thumbnail, the Altimetrics badge is enabled, and we've put our bitstream and our buttons at the bottom versus on the side. And you can go ahead and have a look at that later after the call if you're interested to see. Next slide, please. And then another really, I would say, unique part of how we've set up DSpace is our infrastructure has a few minor changes. So when a user interacts with DSpace, they directly interact with our load balancer, which helps with us managing our traffic. And then they get redirected to one of the 3 Varnish cache servers, which helps with content loading. So this is images and text. It just makes web performance a lot faster. And then if you have a U of T user, anyone who logs in with a U of T ID will log in through Shibboleth. So we have that enabled as well on both our DSpace servers. And yes, we have 2 DSpace servers, DSpace 1 and DSpace 2. At the very top, you'll notice we have Kibana, Elasticsearch, and Logstash, and all of that is just for us for monitoring. So we have all our DSpace, our Tomcat, our Catalina logs actually fed into Kibana, Elasticsearch, and Logstash, and that just makes our lives so much easier. It was very, very helpful during the upgrade process as well, if we wanted to check if there were any errors. And then I want to point out a difference between the out-of-the-box DSpace and our current setup is that we have an external Postgres database server, and our Solar server is also external. In the out of the box, I know that it is packaged together. And then one more last point is that while we do daily backups of our database, it also gets backed up into tape. So we have TSM backup for our databases. Next slide, please. And then overall, I'm just going to quickly go through our upgrade process. We migrated all the custom configurations and the code from 5 to 6. We did a huge comparison of all the changes. And then using that, we created a dev environment and did some testing. Mariya, in the next slide, will talk about more testing, but I'm going to quickly finish the rest of this. And then I would say the bulk of the effort was definitely sorting through all the configuration file changes and also all the code changes. And just to note that when I just joined the project when we were about to upgrade. So there was a little bit of a learning curve for me as well when it came to migrating all the customizations. And another thing we did is we backed up all our Solar collections in our databases. We ensured that our users knew that, hey, there was a maintenance coming up and we would be having downtime. So we made sure on upgrade day that users were redirected to a page that gave them a notification. And then we deployed our new 6.3 code as well as the solar configurations using our handy dandy Kibana. We were able to monitor for any errors. And a unique part of the migration process from 5 to 6 was that we ran the solar statistics conversion tool. This was migrating all the IDs to UUID format. We actually modified this. So in order for us to run multiple instances, we actually ran 6. We made a few minor configurations with that so that it would save us some time with the downtime. And then we ran discovery reindex, and after that was complete, we were able to allow our users to connect to DSpace all over again. And now I'm going to pass it over to Mariya, who's going to talk about testing. Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel. So testing was a big part of our pre-upgrade process, and we tested kind of 3 big ticket items. The first one was testing basic functionality. I will put the link in the chat if you're not familiar with the DSpace upgrade test plan. It's a big spreadsheet that was put together by the DSpace advisory committee. I worked on the JSP/UI part of it when DSpace 6 was just released. So we reused that big plan. It essentially goes through all of the things that DSpace does and all the expected results. And we essentially tested that all of those things work. We tested our customizations, a theme or usage map or status display. We did all of that in dev before we went live, as well as our auto deposit pipelines from Canadian Science Publishing and ProcQuest and SWORD. And we did it on dev, and then after we went live, we also tested it all on prod. I'm very grateful to have had our graduate student library assistant with us who was helping with that testing as well. Most issues that we identified during testing were not hard to resolve. Most of them were specific to our installation, but we found some bugs that we realized then had been reported back in like 2016, 2017, and never got picked up or resolved, which was a little bit annoying because they're still not resolved, and we could have worked on them some more, but there was kind of a point at which we said, okay, it's enough of investing our dev resources into this. And you may never encounter those bugs. It may be specific to the fact, to how we have it enabled. So we have DOI PubMed lookup enabled, and with that, you cannot submit to an individual collection from that collections menu. Why? Don't ask me. As well as you cannot remove the reviewer step, but you can remove all reviewers from the group and it does the thing. So we kind of found a workaround. Anyways, minor but annoying. So overall thoughts, when we went from 5 to 6, we didn't get a lot of new features. This was the big difference, big split between XML UI and JSP UI, that sometimes XML UI gets things and JSP UI doesn't. So there were a few things that didn't make it to JSP UI 6. The main thing that we got out of this upgrade was the REST metadata reporting tool, which is a super cool and useful feature, as well as an integration with symplectic elements, which is what we're working on now. I already mentioned that annoying little bugs that led to some loss of functionality. It did take us longer to perform the upgrade because we did a full web accessibility audit and remediation on our theme. So Rachel mentioned one part of it that we did to the accordion menu, but there were a few other aspects that we took this opportunity to fix. And overall, it was a lot of work and it took a lot of time. So first we started prepping for this upgrade back in 2018. Then our previous developer left, so it had to be put on hold. Then Rachel was hired, which was a happy time for us, but also really trial by fire for her because it meant diving straight into the upgrade off of the bat. So we finally completed this upgrade in November 2020. And of course, now that we have learned that we would need to be on 7 by July of next year, the timing is super bad because I'm going on research leave in August. So I won't be there, no one will be there to orchestrate all of this. So I guess we will be on 6 for quite a bit longer. Yeah, so that is all we wanted to talk about. If you have any questions, please let me know, and I am passing this over back to Jordan.
Thank you both so much. I think we are still troubleshooting some issues with the chat. So is it okay with both of you if we take questions after Dan's presentation?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep,
All
thank you.
right. Thank you both. Next up, Dan from VIU. Are you able to share your screen?
I can try.
Okay, or
Let's see
if you
what
have
happens.
slides or if you're just going to talk, let's.
No, I have slides. Let's see.
Perfect.
You can
Thank
see my
you.
face now, so that's a good place to start. I'll get there. Share screen. Okay. You have this?
It's just loading. Perfect.
Okay. Yeah, thank you for the introduction. My name is Dan Sifton. I work at VIU on Vancouver Island, if you know where VIU is. I was trying to think of a clever, but I couldn't, so I just used the CARL description. So thank you for whoever wrote that. VIU. Okay, so this is ViewSpace. I'm going to use these terms interchangeably. ViewSpace is what we refer to as sort of the local side at VIU of the repository, which is actually split between two institutions, Railroads, that's why it was on the slide previously, and VIU. So the way we break that down is just, we have two separate communities inside here, one for Railroads, one for VIU, of course. And we've been running this, not in this way, but we've been running DSpace since about 2010, 2009. Dan could correct me with a precise number. 2010. So as I said, different flavors, those flavors that we've been doing this, so we had it on premises, provisioned by University IT from about 2010 to 2016. And then we moved to a service provider, which at that time was Longsight, 2016 to 2017. And then finally a move to Atmeyer, which happened in 2017. So I guess it's going on 5 years now. Doesn't seem that long. So, you know, folks often, right? Well, for us, and I think for Railroads too, the IT department had other priorities, and you know, we started to think about opportunities that we might have in a hosted environment. And this isn't for everyone, I wouldn't say. You know, maybe you have dedicated staff in your library that can support what you need. Maybe your IT department. We didn't have either one of these things. I think, you know, the main push for us was that we could get more support in a hosted environment, and we would have more opportunities to do other things in the future coming out of that environment. So in anticipation of somebody asking me, you know, what did IT think of our move? This is an extract of a conversation I had with IT. We had, I think we did one, maybe two upgrades before we moved to a hosted environment. And they were fairly laborious processes. I mean, this isn't usually what our university IT, their space. So they were quite involved, and we had a ticket into, I think, migrate probably to 6 at the time. I don't remember. And it was quite a slow build, and they were very happy not to have to do this as we moved over. So while we were, as I said before, we just had one, we were just dealing with our own institution. We had our own locally hosted DSpace instance, but we had a very good relationship with Railroads, who also had a DSpace instance for alternatives, mostly for the same reasons that we had. And we were thinking maybe we could split the cost of a service provider if we had a shared repository. In reality, it's not even split, like whether that's the volume of data or even cost, but we certainly have more content than RRU, but this worked out quite well. So we shopped around. At the time, it wasn't a very big market. I think it might be even smaller now, I don't know. Back then there was Atmeyer, there was Longsight, there was DSpace. DSpace couldn't do what we wanted them to do in terms of having a split repository. We didn't really look at Atmeyer at the time, but we looked at Longsight, which was based in Cleveland at the time. And they gave us a very good price, and they promised us a lot of really interesting things, most of which they came through on. So we migrated. How do we migrate from local to hosted? Some of you may not wonder this, but this is how it happened. We did a data sync to an AWS S3 bucket. It was 102 gigs of data, took overnight. And it was a sandbox that they ran for a while. And we looked at it and we worked on customizations with that, probably 2 or 3 weeks. And then we did another sync to pull the data that we had added in that space. We went first, Railroads went afterwards. And then I made some DNS changes and we were live. Again, I think I showed you the slide at the beginning. We have this two split community thing under one banner, railroads and ViewSpace. I'm not showing you the themes, but they're both branded differently inside, and we update that as institutional logos change and that sort of thing. So this picture I'm showing you is what it looks like now. It didn't actually look like that when we had Longsight, but the banner was different. I don't have any screenshots of that. So after we migrated through Longsight, I mean, this was probably 6 or 7 months of prep. We were on with them for a year, and then they were purchased by Atmire. So in truth, that wasn't much. That didn't require much from us. They promised to keep the prices rolling. And I will say, like, I'm not getting a discount by talking favorably about Atmire, or I don't work for them anyway. But it's been pretty good. So yeah, we rolled over. They took care of most of the details. We did some DNS changes again. It was a pretty seamless transition. So this has been 6 years, 5 to 6 years, right? So our repository in that space, and this isn't just part of the move, but we started with around 3,000 objects, and now we're a little over 20,000. And I think a lot of the stuff that comes out of this is really about affordances of the new space and having a hosted vendor. So some of the things that we're doing now that we did not do locally that I think have come a lot easier from this process were DOI generation, which would have been a very difficult process locally, and certainly in terms of a split. We have the shared repository, which has been a good thing for us, really. I think that in reality, the shared repository isn't as shared as we had envisioned, but it's still a great thing. And we sort of act as supports for one another. So that's terrific. The response time with a hosted vendor is certainly better than it was with our IT department. We have a streaming media module, which is coming online, which again would have been more complex locally. We've had one outage, I think, in 5 years. And certainly when we were hosted locally, we had more than that. So it's absolutely more resilient and more stable. Looking toward ORCID integration with our split repository, the two institutions, which would have been certainly a very, very difficult process to manage with our IT department. I think one of the things for me that is really useful here is sort of the advice in the space that we have to ask questions. I'm all for learning and researching, but sometimes you have a question, you have a query, and you spend 2 or 3 days researching it and try and find an answer throughout the community. A lot of times I can just ask a question of Atmire and I get an answer, and we can decide whether or not to go down a path or not. And that's very useful. I wouldn't say bad things about our migration, but I would say less good. We don't, which honestly is a big deal. I mean, the only thing that I used it for was to pull out package your exports for Archivematic and that sort of thing. It's not my playground, that's fine. They'll do that for us when we ask. And of course, there are new costs, of course, because we didn't pay anything before this in terms of actual funds. We paid in other ways, I guess. But now we have to pay. We pay a bill annually. And, Atmire our vendor will occasionally want to sell us new things. Sometimes we say yes, sometimes we say no. But there are added costs, and that is not for everybody, certainly. And that is my 12 slides. I'm going to try and stop sharing now the screen.
Thank you so much. All right, now that we have the chat going for everyone, we're happy to take questions for Mariya, Rachel, or Dan. You can put your, you can either raise your hand and Karen can unmute you, or put answer or put questions into the chat or our big Google Doc. I will post the link again. Also, since this meeting started, our own DSpace instance went down, and everyone else on my DSpace team is here in this chat. So we'll worry about that after.
Working on it.
Thanks, Jordan. All right. I have a question. Let's give this to Rachel, I think. So did you start fresh with a DSpace 6 install and re-enable your customizations one by one, or did you run the upgrade script? Sorry, here's a cat. And get back up and running? I just like to hear about your order of operations.
How I onboarded onto the new DSpace platform and learned it and how we did our customizations. Is that kind of where? Okay. Yeah, I would say that I started out actually with our 5 instance, and then from there I went little by little and tried to see like what customizations made changes to the dev environment and then see what broke. But even within that process, I did a really big git diff of both code bases just so I could see it from a higher level. I found the tool merge, melt. I found the tool meld really helpful because it's like a visualization, or really any tool that you can use for version control checking. Through that, I just made changes little by little, and I grouped them based on like, okay, JSP UI, these are all the, in the front end changes. Let's try that little by little. And then I know that these are, the servlet files or the backend changes. Let's try to see like how there's a connection between these two. Like if I see something that says item search and then something in the servlet says item search, those probably go together, right? So it was just a process of trying bit by bit, and then reading the documentation. That helped a lot, just to understand. There's a really good set of documentation on just the architecture of DSpace. So I found that really helpful. And then obviously the DSpace support group, which I reach out to very frequently sometimes. I believe that was one of the first places I reached out to get some insight about how I would tackle this migration, because I had just joined the project. So there's some really amazing folks out there in the community. So if I have interacted with you, I just want to say thank you. If you've answered any of my questions, and definitely the Slack group is also amazing as well. So you might see me and asking questions peppered around those spaces there. But I would say overall that documentation, approaching it bit by bit, and reaching out to the community were my recipe for success, I would say. I hope that answers your questions.
Thank you so much.
I see we have a question in the Google Doc as to whether anyone's managed to get the media player up and running. So I know Dan had mentioned that he has a media player in his instance of DSpace 6. Is that an embedded media player, or?
It's not up yet. It's the audio visual streaming module. I'm not sure if it's the same thing. I'm assuming it is. It's not up yet, and they're testing it. They've had a lot of complications because of our split repository approach, but they did present us with an offer of the module, and we did say yes. So we did pay for it. It is coming. When we had Longsight as a vendor, we had a video module, but it ran at a lower frame rate. It was like half speed, I think.
And that's Karen.
So sorry, I didn't want to interrupt if you were going to follow up on that point, Jordan. I had something else to share with the group. So go ahead if you wanted to continue talking about the media player. No? Okay, so I was going to say something that might be of interest to this group, and there isn't a lot that I can say or share about it yet, but just be on the lookout. Is CARL is kind of at the very, very preliminary stages of thinking about getting together a group to work on a national infrastructure for repositories. So as I said, there's not tons that I can say about that yet, but hopefully that work, and you'll hear more about it in the next, I would say by the end of the summer.
That's great. Thank you, Karen. I also just wanted to shout out Dana McFarland, whom I didn't see here at the moment. She's also part of our awesome community building and engagement group. Hello, Dana. Sorry I missed you. All right, Mariya.
Actually, just a comment to the shared repository infrastructure. I believe there is a similar project currently out of OCL to explore consortial hosting for institutional repositories. So just in case these two haven't been put together, please talk to each other.
Thanks for that, Mariya. I'll be sure to do that.
So I see in the Google Doc that other folks are interested in having a meetup with other folks who are upgrading at the moment. One of the things that the Open Repositories Working Group had really been bringing people together around was enabling the open air extension for our for DSpace that was developed by For Science with help from CARL and Queens as well. That was our plan for this fall, but it looks like we are also upgrading to DSpace 7 at the same time. So who else around us has kind of been, I don't want to say caught off guard by this announcement, but whose plans have changed for this fall? And are you considering going through this together or alone, or is this causing you to rethink your hosting plans in terms of potentially shared hosting or hosted with a vendor? Mike Nason told me once that DSpace is the Danny DeVito of repositories, low center of gravity, anti-capitalist, hard to knock over. We found it's gone down more in the last week than it has in the last few months. But has anyone other than Mike played around with DSpace 7 a bit more? Pierre, are you on 7?
You're speaking to me, Jordan, no?
Yes,
okay. No, not yet. We are
okay.
we are still working on it.
Yeah,
I have a lot of trouble. So sorry, I didn't get back with the experience, but it's a huge work for us, and we were on 6.3, and I understand what people should feel like when they saw the communique from DSpace that 6 and 5 will be, let's say, not. I think that they're not updating security patches or other things in 2023. So, and regarding the open air patch that were done for 5 and 6, maybe the good strategy is to just look at 7. From what we've seen, and I'm just commenting on the open air side of DSpace 7. Yes, you have a full compliance, but you need to. There's some. In our context, there's some metadata that we should use manually that we were not doing. Let's say, for example, managing embargoes or access rights status of an item. So this one was the bad news, but 7 comes with a full compliance with open air. That's true. And that's it for me. I don't know if I answer your question, Jordan. I focus on the open air side, but maybe, but we are not live yet. But if you want us to maybe I can formalize the experience we had with this one. We are supposed to action in August with DSpace 7.
Good luck. I'd like to take Isabel's question in the chat. Has anyone used, I'm not sure what Viewfind is to upgrade the DSpace user UX. Isabel, would you like to get on the mic and explain further?
Yes, hello, I'm Isabel from Quebec College Network, and we have a DSpace 2.6. So it's under the tool base search base in Germany. It's 7,000 repositories that are harvested, and the interface is called Viewfind. It's an open access software, and you can you can put it over the DSpace. It's one idea that I might jungle with. So if anyone has thought of this.
I'm just learning about this right now.
So,
What does it do?
I'm on two computers at the same time. I've just posted the Wikipedia article for Viewfind in that Google Doc. It says it's an open source library search engine that allows users to search and browse beyond the resources of a traditional OPAC. Huh. Thanks for sharing that. I've never seen that.
but base it's 7,000 repositories. So you are there, everyone here.
Okay, so I see.
Good.
So that's the beyond the OPAC. It's bringing in everything from base.
Oh,
Huh.
it's not 7,000, it's 9,847 repository that are harvested. So, and it's, they do not to take the documents with, as in CORE. In England, CORE, they harvest everything, the metadata and the documents. So your statistics, you have to look at CORE to add statistics they have on your documents. But for base, it's a better practice. They just harvest metadata.
Great, thank you for that. Maybe for someone who's gone through an upgrade of any kind before, 5 to 6, 6 to 7, 5 to 7, did you have any troubles? Pierre mentioned the challenges that come with getting the metadata to match embargoes and access rights when it comes to open air compliance. But when you upgraded your bit streams themselves, were they, did you have any issues with things unembargoing or rights not transferring through? That's just to anyone who's gone through an upgrade already. Or if anyone has any other questions, comments, rants about DSpace,
I
feeling.
see Jeanette has their hand up.
Oh, couldn't see that. Jeanette.
Yeah, hi. Yeah, when we last upgraded at U Ottawa, we worked with Atmeyer for parts of the upgrade, which was really helpful to have a little bit more expertise. We were sort of a bit thin on the ground at the time. It was just as I was kind of coming into the role, and so it was helpful to have that. We did, I recall, this kind of a bit back fuzzy in the memory, pay particular attention to the embargoes. I recall that was something that we had to like triple check on, and it was a really nervy kind of process. So I would recommend that anybody who is looking in your process to 7, make sure that we were very lucky. Our embargo thesis collection is a separate collection. So it was like, at least, we could kind of look at it in that sense. Yeah, just generally speaking, we were looking to get onto 7 on QA for the summer with kind of the look to the fall, but I don't want to make it all about me and U Ottawa or anything, but because I've been part of this community for a while, and this is maybe the last little call that I'll be on for a bit. I'm actually leaving U Ottawa at the end of July. So Caroline Sullivan, who is fantastic and very capable, will be taking over some of the DSpace responsibilities. So it's kind of in her capable hands to sort of manage the rest of the upgrade. But certainly having increased programming support at our library in recent years has made a lot of just the everyday DSpace stuff a lot better. So I'm confident that our team, who also we kind of realized actually in our last partial upgrade from to 6.3, there were some things not done. So again, we worked with Atmire to just kind of do an audit. So I suspect we'll do similar work with partially with our own team, partially with Atmire to kind of figure out the transition. And yeah, just finally that we're our Associate University Librarian, Danielle Godin, who I'm not sure is on the call, you can kind of not see as a webinar who else is participating, but they're on the OCO, I'd call it sort of information seeking interest group. So certainly if CARL is looking to do sort of shared infrastructure, I think it's a conversation that seems to be happening, you know, and given how good that's been for other shared infrastructures, if the community can really sort of come in and have the folks who are on this call, the practitioners, really lend their expertise in their hand to that kind of information gathering and that work, I think it would be a really interesting opportunity in the future. So I'll be quiet now and let everybody else talk, but I'll just say it's been a blast working with you all, and yeah, I'll see you around the bend.
Thank you, Jeanette, and thank you for your contributions to this community in the past. And I hope you don't have to work with DSpace possibly in your next job. Thank you, Jeanette. Mariya posted the link to the DSpace 6 testathon and test plan working group, which is something that has particularly caught my eye, especially as I thought I might be coming up with one of these from scratch. But it is it's interesting to hear about what types of customizations folks have and have brought from one version to the next. Right now, I'm thinking of what customizations we can get rid of. One tiny module that isn't working at the moment, but it doesn't seem like people are really using it anyways, except other librarians. So, but I feel like we've done a pretty good job keeping it minimally customized. All right, looks like UBC going from content DM to DSpace. So you're one of the migrating teams, like Mike going from Islandora to DSpace. I feel almost privileged to be going from DSpace to DSpace. Is there anyone else who has feelings about DSpace that they would like to share in the next few minutes? I can see that folks have responded in the Google Doc with various emoji detailing how they feel about this upgrade. But I can say on behalf of the other members of our ORWG task group, we will be hosting further get-togethers / airings of grievances / support sessions so we can get through this together. It's going to be a challenging year, but we're in it together. Pierre?
Yes, just it's a challenge, but I strongly believe that it's also an opportunity for us, because we are just changing all the technologies behind, and customization is just an evil thing in open source. So if you can, as we've made the choice here, and for the migration to DSpace 7, to leave alone a lot of customization, maybe more than 20. So we have some regressions, I would say, on some features, but it's if we correctly plan, if we get organized, I would say, with this version, which also has the virtue to make us share the same UI, the same UX. We're not talking about GSP UI or XML UI, which has some specificity and which was a very difficult things to get together with those all kind of very different technologies. So I believe it's true that it's an headache to migrate, but once we are in, DSpace 7 has the potential, as we would be sharing the same kind of technologies to maybe get organized and maybe may more implicated or commit to the DSpace community. Maybe the code we develop, we can share it with the community and see what kind of reviews we could get and add our own what we use to say customize features, like a feature that we can contribute and share. So, but again, that would require a lot of discussion, but I believe we should go this way and see how we can be more committed, not only on the documentation side or feature side, but on the development side, so that things that we're doing can pass to the community. And that's it. I stop here.
Thank you. Sharing is caring, and I hope that we can do a lot more of that with each other in the near future. I really hope that we were actually going to get to plug in that OpenAir extension, but Mariya.
Hi, thank you. I would like to hear about institutions considering exploiting using the configurable entities functionality, because this is quite new and seems to be, I'd say, a challenge, because I've talked to Pierre earlier about that. I think they're considering at ULaval using that, but I'd like to hear if other institutions have views on that, and what are they?
I think Mike was interested.
Yeah, I saw that. Okay.
No.
Hi. Yeah, no, I would love to know more about it myself. I actually have a meeting with Pierre literally after this call to talk about it on our end. So we're all leaning on Pierre.
Okay.
We are coming to the end of our hour here, but I want to thank everyone for showing up today. If you are interested in, if you're not part of the Open Repositories Working Group and are interested in staying in touch on these calls, we do send these announcements out via the Repos L listserv and on the SCAL Common Canada Slack, but please drop your contact info in the documents, the Google Doc that was shared earlier, and we will all get through this together. Mariya, did you have another question, or are you still, oh, your hand's still up? Or, okay, you're all good. Call and configurable entities, yes. These are all potential topics for the future. Thank you everyone for being here today. We will get through this, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Karen, anything else left to say?
No, thanks everyone for your patience. I hope you enjoyed the call, and next time I'll be a pro.
Take care, everyone.